Good morning, Mega Podlings. It's Crazy Joe. It is Tuesday. It is Crazy After Dark. And welcome. I see Punk Nerd. I see Joey Hockey Puck. I see Kyle. Good to see you guys. How are you? It is another beautiful Tuesday night. And we are back. And, I don't know. Do we have much to talk about? Has much been going on this week? I'm kind of blanking. I don't think there's been a whole lot of movie news this past week. James says, hello, Joe. Yesterday I watched The Magnificent Seven. It's a great movie. The original or the remake? The original or the remake? Yeah, I think it's been a rather uneventful week. Kyle says, I got another movie in the mail today. I hope it was a good one. Joey Baseball's here. Oh, we got Baseball and Hockey Puck in the room at the same time. Backpin Forever's here. James says it was the original. Brent Mania is here. Well, it's good to see you guys. Tuffy Perkins is here. It's good to see you. It's been a long weekend. Or, as they say on Star Trek, it's been a long weekend. Getting from there to here. Singing already. Yeah. Backward says, I thought I was late to the party. I was about to blame YouTube for not notifying me. No! You are just in time for the party. Punk Nerd says, can't wait for the We Bare Bears movie. I didn't know that there was a We Bare Bears movie. Brent says, did I like the movie Boyhood? I did not. I did not care for the movie Boyhood at all, quite frankly. I tried. But it's a clever concept for a movie, but I just didn't really think it went anywhere. Jesse and Boredom Strikes are here. Welcome, guys. Good to see you. Good to see you. Jamel says, how was my day? My day was good. How was your day, Jamel? Yeah. I don't know. I was perusing the movie news before I popped on. And it doesn't look like there's much. Boredom Strike says, did you see Scott Derrickson's been hired to shoot a sequel to Labyrinth? I did see that. And that is probably the best bit of movie news I've seen all week. Except I didn't really like, personally speaking, Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is one of my least favorite Marvel superhero movies. So, that was Scott Derrickson. He also did one of the Hellraiser movies, though. Hellraiser Inferno, I believe, which is one of the ones I actually haven't watched. Brent says he agrees with me about Boyhood. Yeah, I didn't really care for it. Joey didn't like it either. It was a clever idea. Clever idea for a movie, but I just didn't think it worked well, personally. Cal says, I don't know if it's good or not, Joe. I haven't seen it yet, but I get my cap and gown tomorrow. Well, congratulations, sir. Congratulations. James says, say, Joe, I remember seeing Man of Steel in theaters when it came out, and I didn't remember anything about it. I've heard Zack Snyder is not a Superman fan. Yeah, it's a pretty terrible movie. It really fails the character. It really fails to understand who Superman is, and not just who Superman is, but who his supporting cast is. Like, for example, there's a scene early on in the movie where he almost exposes himself to the world and exposes his superpowers by saving another child. And Jonathan Kent, and in the comics, Jonathan Kent, is the man who gave him his moral compass, who taught him to, always do the right thing and be the hero that he is. So much of who Superman is comes from his upbringing with Jonathan and Martha Kent. And Jonathan Kent is telling him how he shouldn't have exposed himself in front of these kids. And he says, well, should I have let him die? And Jonathan Kent says, maybe. Jonathan Kent would never say that. Not only did it get Superman wrong, it got Jonathan Kent wrong. It's a dark, cynical movie that doesn't seem to understand who Superman is. It's like they watched the Batman movies, and we're like, well, dark sells. People like dark. They like dark, broody heroes. So that's what we're gonna do. But that's who Batman is. That's not who Superman is. So it did not work. I don't like that movie. And let me ask you this: Clark grows up to be Superman, right? Well, early on or late in the movie, we see a flashback to when Clark was a boy, and he's running around in the yard with a red towel around his neck like a cape. Who is he pretending to be? Because when kids do that, they're pretending to be Superman. But he wasn't pretending to be Superman because he is Superman, but he wasn't Superman yet. So who was young Clark pretending to be with a red towel around his neck? Terrible movie. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Backwood says, today I watched Uncut Gems. It was a very good movie. It is a very good movie. I don't think I need to watch it again. It's one of those movies that I liked, but I didn't love it. So yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit the first time I saw it, but I don't know that I need to rewatch that one, personally. Backwin says, I never cared much for Doctor Strange. It was kind of weak. I thought so too, but then again, I just never really cared for the character of Doctor Strange. So my feelings for Doctor Strange, when I say I don't like Doctor Strange, it's more based on the character himself, not the movie. So take of that what you will. James says, opinion respected on Doctor Strange, Joe. My least favorite Marvel film is Captain Marvel. Oh, I love Captain Marvel. I do love Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel is one of my favorites. Doctor Strange, Black Panther, and Thor 2 are my three least favorites. Let's see. Backwin said, no, that's a side conversation. My apologies. Backwin, it's another side conversation. Favorite Gary Marshall movie? I don't know if I have one. I'm not. I mean, I grew up watching Happy Days, but I don't know that I'm a big Gary Marshall fan, especially not his movies. I can't really think of any of his movies that I really loved. Henry says he was pretending to be Captain Marvel. Yeah, but Captain Marvel had a white cape. He could have been pretending to be Thor. Thor had a red cape. James says you can make a dark Superman movie. Superman versus the Elite is a good example. The problem with Man of Steel was it was trying too hard to be dark and it forgot what made Superman great. That's true. You could put Superman in a dark situation, but Superman himself shouldn't be the one who's dark and broody. He should be the beacon of hope in the middle of it all. So it's like he could be in a situation that's very dark, but you shouldn't compromise his character. He should come through it still as hopeful as you'd expect. Hang on 1 minute. It's a little hot. I'm dealing with a fan over here. Sorry, I got the fan blowing on me because it's very hot down this basement today. It's hot upstairs too. So I put a fan right here next to me. But I don't want it blowing too much because then it'll start blowing some of these paper things I have around. That's pretty good. I think that's a good space. I have a remote for the fan, but I lost it. There it is. I found the remote for the fan. Let's see. HBO Max tomorrow, Vernon says. Very true. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's on there. Whenever these streaming services start, I'm always excited to see what's on there. And not the big ticket items that they advertise, like Friends and The Joker and... No. I want to know the weird little things that you don't think anyone cares about that are there, but you're not hyping them up. Like, it's a Time Warner. Time Warner owns it. So I'm hoping there's all these little sitcoms that Warner Brothers produced over the years. One in particular I'm hoping for is Just the 10 of Us. I'm hoping Just the 10 of Us is on there. Because these things where else are you going to see them? Like, they're probably never going to put just the 10 of us out on DVD, because who would buy it? You know, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it ran for 3 seasons. It had an audience, but that was 30 years ago. It hasn't been running in reruns. So it's been out of the public subconscious for so long that there's probably no money in a physical release because it's too niche. It's almost too niche. Maybe Warner Archives could do it, but it's so niche. And I always feel like that's something ideal for a streaming service, because you have it, you made it, it's 3 seasons long, you have 3 seasons of this thing. Where else are you going to put it? Put it on HBO Max. So I don't know, we'll see tomorrow. But another show like that I always talk about is the Tortellis. I don't know how many of you remember the Tortellis, but the Tortellis was the first spinoff of Cheers before Frasier, about Carla's ex-husband Nick Tortelli. That lasted, I believe, 2 seasons. Hasn't seen the light of day since like 1984. Well, put them up on CBS All Access. CBS, you own this. Stick them up there, because Cheers and Frasier both went on to run for 11 years. 11 years each. That's 22 seasons in the quote-unquote Cheers franchise. So the Cheers franchise made up of Cheers and Frasier, and also Wings, which wasn't really a spin-off of Cheers, but it crossed over with Cheers several times. Frasier, Norm Cliff, they all showed up on Wings at some point. The Cheers-averse, if we'll call it that, is popular enough that I think if you stuck those 2 seasons of the Tortellis up on a streaming service, people would watch them. People would be curious to see that again. So, I don't know. That's the kind of stuff that interests me. Bohemian says, hey, Crazy Joe, hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend. I hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend. Brandon says, I'd buy just the 10 of us. So would I, Brandon. So would I. But I don't think there's enough of us. But, you know, every now and then a sitcom will get a physical release that I'll be like, I can't believe that got... Here's one. Here's a show, 2 seasons. 2 seasons, was not a hit show. I can't believe I own the complete series of it. I can't believe that this show got a DVD release. The fan. Here we go. I can't believe that this show got a DVD release. I'm glad it did. I'm glad I own it. But I'm surprised. Bob. This was Bob Newhart's 3rd TV series, aired on CBS in the early 90s. After the Bob Newhart Show and Newhart, he did Bob. And Bob only lasted 2 seasons. Bob was a failure in its first season, was going to be canceled, but they moved it to Monday nights for summer, and summer reruns ran on Monday nights, got great ratings. The show during the season ran on Fridays. Well, Monday night was, by the way, the night Newhart aired. Newhart ran for 11 years on Monday nights. So they moved Bob for the summer reruns to Monday nights. Suddenly it was thriving. So they said, oh, hey, look at that. People are watching the reruns. Let's bring Bob back. Bring it back for a 2nd season. But they put it back on Friday nights again. And it did not last. Also, season 2 wasn't as good. They retooled the show to add like Betty White and things. And it just wasn't as good in the 2nd season. But yeah, I'm shocked that this show got a physical release. Glad it did, though. Jesse says, Joe, in the Police Academy movies, do you prefer Harris or Mauser? I got to go with Harris. By the way, Jesse, there's another show that should be on HBO Max. Who remembers Police Academy, the series? There was a TV series. It starred Joe Flaherty from SCTV, who played Commandant Ledbetter, who was the commandant who took over the Police Academy after Commandant Lassard retired. The only cast member from the movies who was a regular on the show was Michael Winslow. Michael Winslow came back, was in every episode. Commandant Lassard made a guest appearance in one episode. Callahan made an appearance in one episode. Mauser made an appearance in one episode. So it's like the other cast members would pop on now and then, but the only one that was a series regular was Michael Winslow. One season it ran. Who remembers Police Academy, the series? Put it on HBO Max. I hope it's there tomorrow. Anyway. Backwin says, fun fact about Kick-Ass. Evan Peters and Aaron Taylor Johnson both went on to play Quicksilver. That's right. Evan Peters is the better Quicksilver, though. I'm really hoping. It might not happen. It probably won't happen. But Doctor Strange 2 is called Multiverse of Madness. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I'm kind of hoping it takes a page from what Crisis on Infinite Earths just did on TV and starts bringing in Marvel characters from outside the MCU, like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man or Lou Ferrigno's Hulk. Just start doing little fun things like that. Like, it's a multiverse. I think they could have fun with that. But what I would ultimately love, because Aaron Taylor Johnson's Quicksilver died in, spoiler alert, in Avengers 2, I would love for them to bring in Evan Peters' Quicksilver from the Fox universe. Just have him come in through Multiverse of Madness, and now he's the MCU's Quicksilver. I would love that. I'm sure it won't happen, but I would love that. Punk Nerd says, where is Geriatric Geek? Geriatric Geek, are you here? Are you here? I haven't seen him, Punk Nerd. I don't think he's in the chat. If he is, I haven't seen him pop in yet. Joey says, Punk Nerd, how do you hate rap? Joey, I can answer for him very easily. I hate rap too. Anyway. Joey says, how does adding Betty White make things worse? Well, because the whole show got retooled. And he was a comic book artist who created a character called Mad Dog. And season 1 ended with the comic book Mad Dog being canceled. So season 2, Bob went to work for Betty White, but now he was making greeting cards. And let's be honest, a sitcom about a guy drawing a superhero named Mad Dog is more fun than a sitcom about a guy making greeting cards. Just the way it is. Brandon says, Evening Shade would be another series I'd love to find on streaming or a physical release. Yes. Yes. What about Freddy's Nightmares? I keep saying, Mill Creek really should get the rights to put out a DVD release of Freddy's Nightmares because their DVD sets are cheap. They could get the whole series of Freddy's Nightmares on DVD, make it $20, put it on at the register at like Halloween, Adventure, Spirit, Halloween, whatever, and it becomes an impulse buy at Halloween. People are buying their Halloween costumes. Hey, there's the full series of Freddy Krueger. Sure. I think that would be a brilliant move, but they don't nobody listens. Jesse says, I remember the Police Academy animated series. Didn't know there was an actual live-action TV show. HBO Max should put both series and all 7 movies on. I agree. Yeah, the Police Academy, the series aired in... you know what? Let's do something just a little different. I'm going to find the opening credits to Police Academy, the series. Let's see. I'm not going to be able to read the chat while I'm doing this, though, so I hope I don't... Are they going to get me on the music? Let's see. Here we go. Wait a minute. There it is. Police Academy, the TV series. This is the intro. I found it on YouTube from like 1997. I should talk over the music so I don't get dinged for it. But this is the opening credits of Police Academy, the series. Maybe I should lower the volume so I don't get in trouble. Yeah, Police Academy, the series. Who remembers this show? Who watched this show when it was on? Michael Winslow was like the last one billed. Joe Flaherty was the commandant. And there he is, and Michael Winslow. It wasn't very good. Don't get me wrong. It was like, take the weakest movie in the series, and it was weaker than that. But still though. I mean, they made it. They made 22 episodes of it. Let's see it. Someone worked on that. Someone worked on that show. How do I get out of here? Now I'm not going to be able to get the stream back. There we go. We are back. Does anybody remember that show? Backwin says, if you watch Spider-Man 2, they made a reference to Doctor Strange, so it makes sense. Yes, and who's directing Doctor Strange? Sam Raimi. There you go. Michael Clayton says, been watching Tales from the Crypt, picked up the whole collection the other day for $20. Yes, a release of Freddy's Nightmares would be awesome. I agree. Another choice for HBO Max, the Max Fleischer Popeye cartoons. It's a good one. That's a good one. Joey says, I've never seen a single second of anything Police Academy. Well, you need to get HBO Max. I'm sure all 7 movies will be up there. You can skip the 7th one. Mission to Moscow. Not very good. I can't stand Mission to Moscow. I want to like Mission to Moscow because the other 6, they're not always, they're sometimes terrible. They're sometimes terrible movies. But I can get like a modicum of enjoyment out of all 6. Then we get to the 7th one, and it's just painful. It's just painful. Oz WWF says, how about releasing a box set of The Fall Guy? I think that's Universal. I think Universal owns The Fall Guy. Marie says, hey from all. Hope you had a good Memorial Day. I hope you had a good Memorial Day. And by the way, we are, of course, joined by Mr. Super Chat Hippo, the coolest hippo in the world. Somebody commented on one of my videos the other day and said something about being attacked by a hippo. And I'm like, are you referring to Super Chat Hippo? So I responded. I said, Super Chat Hippo is only on the live streams. I didn't know what the guy was talking about. Liza's here. Welcome, Liza. Good to see you. Hey, Joe, I remember it. I also remember that it wasn't great. It was terrible, but I watched it. James says, another contender for HBO Max is Twice Upon a Time, my favorite animated movie of all time. I don't know that movie. I don't know that one. My favorite Police Academy was part 2. Police Academy 2, their first assignment. The first one with Bobcat Goldthwait. That was my favorite of the series. Jesse says, wow, Tony Longo was on Police Academy. He was in a lot of 80s and 90s movies. I don't think I'm familiar with Tony Longo. Lisa says, hi-ho, Joe. Have you seen the trailer for Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds? I did. Wikipedia says date of December 2020. But I saw an ad on TV saying July of 2020. I missed the movies. Oh, Lisa says the Police Academy movies are on Netflix. So I guess HBO won't have them. Brandon says, what about the Dean Cameron series, They Came From Outer Space? I don't know that series either. Connor says, have I seen The Wolf of Wall Street? Funny you should ask, Connor. Funny you should ask. I always tell this story. I've probably told this story a million times. There was a guy I used to work with, a guy named Will. By the way, Will watches my videos sometimes. So Will, if you're watching, how you doing, buddy? But Will used to work with me at my old job. And he used to always ask me every time I passed him in the hall, did you watch Wolf of Wall Street yet? And I used to always say, not yet, not yet, not yet. Because it's a 3-hour-long movie. And with my schedule being what it is, it's really hard to find 3 hours to sit down and devote to a movie. If I could find 90 minutes, 2 hours, that's good for me. It's like, yay, I got free 2 hours. 3 hours, man, you're asking for too much. So, yeah, every time I'd say, nope, I'm sorry, I have not seen Wolf of Wall Street yet. I want to see it, I haven't seen it yet. I can now say I have seen The Wolf of Wall Street. I watched The Wolf of Wall Street this past weekend. Let me tell you guys what I did. And I'm trying to decide if I want to do a video about this. There's a part of me that thinks, well, who cares? Why do a video about this? Because is there audience interest? Why does anyone care? But Rick is going on Facebook every day and pulling titles out of a hat and showing you what movie he pulled out of a hat. So maybe people do care. Because if people want to watch Rick pull a title out of a hat, then maybe this is equally interesting. Though personally, my thought is nobody's going to care about this. But I have so many digital movies on my Vudu account. So many. I have thousands of digital movies on my Vudu account. And a lot of them are movies that I, for one way or another, either picked up dirt cheap or free or were given to me or whatever. So I got like so many movies on my Vudu in digital that I have never, ever, ever watched. Well, Vudu created a new feature called lists. You can make lists and group your movies the way you want them grouped. If I want to make a list for all my superhero movies, I could do that. If I want to make a list for all the Star Wars movies, I could do that. You want to make a list for all the Star Trek movies, I could do that. So I started making a list called Movies I Need to Watch. And what I did was I went through my Vudu account and I went back as far as I could. And I just started finding titles that I hadn't watched or that I watched and didn't remember. And was like, that one's foggy, I gotta watch it again. And I just started putting these in the folder called Movies I Need to Watch. Eventually, I got to 200. And it stopped. Apparently, you can only have 200 movies in a list on Vudu lists. That 200 is where they max you out and say, you got enough. Well, I didn't know that. I was just going to keep putting stuff in there, fill the whole thing with movies I hadn't watched yet. But it capped out at 200. It said, you've hit the max. So I said, okay, there we are, 200. It's 200 movies in this folder, and I need to watch all 200 of them. So in my head, I refer to them as the digital 200. The digital 200, this file of 200 digital movies I gotta watch. To keep in mind, I also have a pile of physical copies I have to watch. Like, I just watched The Adventures of Ford Fairlane the other day, which was sent to me by our good friend Jessica. So I got physical movies I gotta watch, got digital movies I gotta watch, and then occasionally you want to revisit something you love, one of your favorites, right? So I refer to these 200 digital movies that I have to watch as, quote unquote, the digital 200. That's what I call them. And I have now watched 5 of the digital 200. So there's 195 left. The 5 I watched were the 3 Universal Soldiers movies. The 3 that count in, because they made like 7 or 8 Universal Soldiers movies, but only 3 of them count. Universal Soldier Regeneration, which kind of ignores everything, all the sequels that came before. So it's the one, remember, Generation, then there's Day of Reckoning. Those are the 3 that, quote unquote, are canonical, that count. I watched all 3 of them. Now, I'd seen Universal Soldier before, but I hadn't seen Regeneration or Day of Reckoning. So I'm like, well, let me start with the first one again. I'll revisit the first one, then I'll do the second and third. So that was my first 3. Then I watched Wolf of Wall Street, and then I watched the Blumhouse movie Creep. So those are the first 5 of the quote-unquote digital 200. So I have 195 of these movies left to watch. And I've been writing reviews as I watch them on Letterboxd. So if you go to Letterboxd, you can find that. So anyway, that is a long rant. But I was wondering if I should do a video about the digital 200 and what I'm doing, and then do follow-up videos as I watch these movies. I don't know if that anyone cares about that, but I thought about doing it. So anyway. Joey says, so you can't watch a 3-hour movie in separate sittings? You have to watch a 3-hour movie all at once? Absolutely. Absolutely. I despise watching movies piecemeal. I gotta sit, watch the whole thing. If something interrupts me and I have to walk away from a movie and come back to it later, it annoys the crap out of me because you've ruined the flow. I want to see the movie start to finish. I don't want to walk away. James says, say Crazy Joe, which film is better, Suicide Squad or Birds of Prey? I have no interest in watching the former or seeing the later, but opinion respected. Absolutely, Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey is phenomenal. It is really good. Well, I was going to say it's one of the best movies of the year. And that is true. It is one of the best movies of the year. However, this year, I guess that's not a high bar because there haven't been many movies this year. But yeah, it's really, really, really good. It's written by Christina Hodson, who wrote Bumblebee, which I love the movie Bumblebee. She did it again. Wrote another great script. Margot Robbie's great in it. The movie's got a lot of heart, a lot of humor. It is just perfect. It was my Valentine's date with Christine. We went to dinner and saw Birds of Prey. We both loved it. I ended up seeing it 3 times in the movies. It was the last movie I saw in theaters before they closed theaters. So yes, can't recommend Birds of Prey enough. Now, Suicide Squad. A lot of people hate Suicide Squad. I don't hate it. It's one of the weaker DC movies by far, but it's also a lot of fun. Like, it's just got a lot of fun in it. Like Captain Boomerang and his love of pink unicorns. I mean, it's a goofy movie, and I get a kick out of it. So, but yeah, no, of the two, it's not even close. Birds of Prey is about 10 times better than Suicide Squad. Aubrey's in the house. Welcome, Aubrey. Marie says, I'll watch anything you put out. Thank you, Marie. I appreciate that. Reptile Dude says, I should do the Digital 200. Trash Boat says, hey, tell us your thoughts on Warehouse 13. I love Warehouse 13. I love it. And I'm hoping Mill Creek is putting the whole series out on Blu-ray because Mill Creek already announced that they're doing Eureka. And Eureka and Warehouse 13, they just go hand in hand. They're kind of sister shows to one another. So yeah, I'm hoping. Connor says, I still hope you can do an autograph video. I love your poster collection video. Thank you. I might do autographs. I don't know. We'll see. Joe, have I watched... I won't watch anything Midnight Sludge puts out. I don't like to mention them because I don't like tearing down other YouTube channels, but they are, I think, one of the worst on YouTube because their whole business model is lying and just making stuff up and sensational clickbait titles that have no basis in reality just to get clicks and make money. They are terrible. Their friend in the mask, whom I call Doom Clown, he is just as bad, if not worse. And they got 2 other cronies that drive me crazy. One of them has flaming red hair, and one of them has a long beard. I think they are the 4 worst channels on YouTube. That is my personal opinion. Greg says, welcome, Greg. Good to see you, man. I have a hard time watching movies at home. I can't sit still for 2 hours. That's why I like YouTube, because everything is short. I'm with you, Greg. I find it very hard to watch movies at home. I always say, if I don't see something in the theater, odds are I'm not going to see it. Just a reminder, we are joined by the lovely Super Chat Hippo tonight. Frank Kessel says, why wasn't Kurt Russell in Universal Soldier? I don't know. But Dolph Lundgren was. Noah says, I had to pause The Irishman to pee since I couldn't see it in theaters. See, I did see The Irishman in theaters. James says, I wish Regular Show got completed on DVD, although I have a slight hope that maybe it'll get streamed on HBO Max. Bohemian says Suicide Squad was one of the first Blu-rays he ever bought. Lisa says Fraggle Rock reboot is coming. Yay. Boo to having Apple TV. I'm a little disappointed in the Fraggle Rock reboot, Fraggle Rock Go. I mean, it's nice. Obviously it was done in quarantine, but I really wish it had been a half-hour show. I would love it if they would just give us a half-hour Fraggle Rock show again. I want my sauce says, what's my favorite color? Blue. Blue is my favorite color. Trashboat says, hey Joe, have you ever watched YouTuber Dasuki Beppo? I have not heard of him. I'm sorry. I don't know him. Joey always watches movies in separate settings. Brent says, I was looking up weird horror movie titles, and one of them was Killer Condom. Have I ever seen that? I've heard the title. I have heard the title, but I've never seen it. Aubrey asks if I checked out Minty Comedic Arts yet. Yes, I have, Aubrey. I've actually seen several of his videos now. And after you told me to check him out, I think I'd seen him actually prior, but didn't know his name. James Borland says, to be fair, Joe, they are not the only clickbaiters on YouTube. There's also an NNA production who makes these god-awful do not call it 3 a.m. vids. Okay, I'm not familiar with them. Another one I don't like is Red Letter Media. I'm not crazy about Red Letter Media. Somebody put a Red Letter Media review of Picard up. I didn't watch it. I didn't watch the video, but I just wrote, I bet they trash it. Someone said they do. I said, yeah, because that's what they do. The problem with something like Red Letter Media is they're not legitimate criticism. And what I mean by that is they made a name for themselves tearing apart the Phantom Menace. And I watched it. I watched their video where they tore apart the Phantom Menace. It was funny. It really was. But that's what they made their name doing. So that's what their audience expects. Their audience expects them to tear things down, to tear into things. That's what they expect. So therefore, it is not in their best financial interest to like something. Their audience doesn't want to hear them praise something. They don't want to see a Red Letter Media video where they're sitting there talking about how good something is. That's not what their audience is invested in. Their audience is invested in, let's tear this thing down. Let's tear it down. So if you know going in that there's no chance they're going to like a thing, first of all, it becomes disingenuous because now you don't know if they really dislike the thing or if they're just saying they dislike the thing because that's where the money is. I mentioned the woman with the bright red hair. I'm not going to say her name. I saw her doing a review of one of the short treks once, Star Trek short treks, and she started to say that it was pretty good. She started to say, like, well, this one was actually not bad. And started to say something positive. And then she saw in the chat that her audience wasn't going to go for that. And she real quick like that, turned and said, well, you don't want to hear that. No, this is just as bad. This is just as bad as it's just as bad. And I'm like, wow. You basically just let us look behind the curtain. You basically went, this is what I do. I'm playing to an audience. The audience wants to hear me say how crappy this thing is. So I have to say how crappy this thing is because that's what my audience wants. And I'm like, your opinion is worthless now. Your opinion is worthless now because you just told us you tailor your opinion to what your audience wants to hear and not what you're actually thinking. And that's all I'll say about those channels. I don't think very highly of them. Joey says, what are your thoughts on Lori Loughlin going to jail? Don't really have any thoughts about it. Haven't really paid much attention to the case. Connor says, have you heard anything on the new Muppets show? I know it's a short, unscripted show, which, again, like Fraggle Rock, I just wish it was like a half-hour scripted show. That's what I would prefer. But Craig says, Red Letter Media is funny, but the Plinkett review of Picard was boring. Bet I'm right, though. Bet they didn't like it. Am I right? James says, say Krazy Joe, thoughts on Solar Opposites, the show created from the guy who makes Rick and Morty. We talked about it on the last podcast, Jacob and I. Jacob really liked it. I have not seen it yet, but I know Jacob was a fan. Joey Baseball says the Nostalgia Critic does the exact same thing. Yeah, he does. I'm not a big fan of the Nostalgia Critic's videos either. Again, I don't want to be trashing other YouTubers, because here's the thing. I've met the Nostalgia Critic. I've met him. uh, years ago. And you know what? He's a super nice guy. He's a super nice guy. I really genuinely liked him in person. Uh, his videos just aren't my thing. His videos just aren't my thing. But him personally, great guy. Got nothing but good things to say about him. Jesse says, Joe, if you did you ever watch the '80s show Charles in Charge? Absolutely, absolutely. I never liked it as much after the first season, though. After the Pembroke family moved out, the Pals, not a huge fan of the Pals. I prefer the Pembrokes, and I was disappointed when the Pembrokes moved away. Also, as a young lad, might have had just a little bit of a crush on Lila Pembroke. Might have. Just saying. Bohemian says, I watched DC's Legends of Tomorrow Supernatural episode last Tuesday. Now I'm thinking about binge watching it on Netflix. Binge watching Supernatural or Legends? Legends is so good. Legends. You know what else is really good? Stargirl. Stargirl, the new DC show on DC Universe. 2 episodes in, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Really enjoying the heck out of Stargirl. Highly recommend that one. Trashboat says, I don't like these people whose whole bit is hating stuff. You only get one life, so why be so negative about everything? I agree. And I'll tell you, if I don't like something, I'll tell you I don't like something, but I tend to dwell more on the things I do like than the things I don't like. Like I challenge you to watch any of those channels, Midnight Sludge or any of their cronies, and show me the video where they're talking about a thing they love. It's always like, Brie Larson did this, and I hate Brie Larson. Bleh. Brie Larson. Bleh. Star Wars. Bleh. Hate Kathleen Kennedy. Bleh. I hate Kathleen Kennedy. Fire Kathleen Kennedy. Star Trek. Blah, 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 blah. Alex Kurtzman. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's just never, hey, guess what? Like I just told you, watch Stargirl. Stargirl's so good. It's never that. It's never like a video of, just checked out this new thing. It's so good. You got to see this. It's always, what do we hate today? Let's look at the headline and I'll tell you what's crappy today. That's all these guys do. I tear my hair out, but I don't have any left. James says there's a new Peanuts cartoon called Snoopy in Space on Apple TV. Thoughts? Yeah, we've been watching it with Kira. She does like it. She's a big fan of Peanuts. Connor says, what's your first watch going to be on HBO Max? Depends what's on HBO Max. I don't know. But hopefully it'll be just the 10 of us. Fingers crossed. I don't know. I want that show on there so badly. Lisa says, that's what's next. Full Fraggle Rock. Oh, really? Lisa, you just made my day. They put the news out today. I didn't see that anywhere. That is good news. I am so happy to hear that. Is Dave Goelz going to be performing Boober again? I know he's been in the shorts doing Boober's voice, but not actually the puppeteering. Do we know if he's going to get his hand back? Put his hand inside the puppet head. Put his hand inside the puppet head. I'd like to know. Jesse says, I like watching Cinemassacre. Cinemassacre is good. And again, super nice guy. Cinemassacre, he's been on this channel more than once. Super friendly guy. I dig him. He's a local guy. Joey says, is Mean Girls in the digital 200? It is not. I don't own Mean Girls in any form. And yeah, you're drunk on The Breakfast Club. That is a far better movie. Greg says, is Three's Company the greatest sitcom ever? Greg, I love Three's Company. I do love Three's Company. But my favorite sitcom of all time was always Cheers. Cheers was... I always said... I don't think I'll ever see a sitcom that I think is as funny as Cheers. I said that for years. And then in the last 10 years, that sitcom finally reared its head that I like better than Cheers. Community. Community is my favorite sitcom of all time. And it's the first sitcom that ever came close to knocking Cheers out of number one, but Three's Company is way up there. I'll definitely put that way up there. James says it's kind of weird that Fraggle Rock reboot is going to be on the it's not going to be on HBO Max, but then again, Animaniacs reboot is going to Hulu. So yeah, I have a feeling the Animaniacs reboot will go to HBO Max as soon as the contract with Hulu is up. They signed that deal so long ago that it's a little too late to back out now. Bohemian says Legends of Tomorrow. I'm just waiting for the last 7 episodes of Supernatural to come out. Jesse says, Joe, do you like the 80s John Carpenter movie Starman with Jeff Bridges? Not only do I love the 1980s movie Starman with Jeff Bridges, it's my favorite John Carpenter movie. It's my favorite John Carpenter movie. And I love the TV series spinoff that starred Robert Hayes. In fact, I got that over in the movie closet. Let me go get that. Hang on a second. There it is. Starman, the complete series. The TV series based on the movie. I think there were 13 episodes, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, man. TV follow-up to the feature film, The Alien returns to Earth 14 years after his first visit, taking on the identity of Paul Forrester, a dead freelance photographer. He succeeds in finding the son he fathered, Scott, but learns that Scott and his mother have been separated. Together they search for her, but are hounded by a paranoid and malevolent government agent, Michael Cavanaugh. I was such a big fan of this show back in the day. Movie's great. TV series is equally great. Who remembers the TV show? And I had Robert Hayes on the podcast once to talk about it. Trashboat says Community, Always Sunny, and Archer are my 3 favorite sitcoms. Good choices. Jim Dugan says Cheers has some classic vibes, but there's a lot of funnier sitcoms. I'd be hard-pressed to find a funnier sitcom than Cheers. Joe, don't forget about Night Court. Night Court, Jesse. Yes, Night Court's a great show. I'm hoping that'll be on HBO Max. That's a Warner Brothers show. Lisa says, I don't know about Dave Gold's spot on the new one, but they're going to put up all 96 episodes of the original as well on Apple TV. That's cool. Joey says Scrubs is the sitcom you should be watching, better than Cheers and Community. Totally disagree. I've seen Scrubs. It's okay. I think that would be my review. It's okay. I don't like it that much. Frank says, is Married with Children in your top 10? I don't know if it's in my top 10, but Married with Children is a great sitcom. Cheers would be up there. Community would be up there. Night Court would be up there. Perfect Strangers. Perfect Strangers would be up there. After that, I'd have to think. Those are the no-brainers. Those are the ones where it's like, oh, yeah, no question. They would be up there. I know one that would be up there. Hang on. I got it. It's out of print, too. Can't get this one. Oh, here's one. Here's several sitcoms that would make my list of greatest sitcoms of all time. Baby, if you ever wondered whatever became of me. I'm living on the air in Cincinnati, WKRP. And of course, News Radio. News Radio. This was one of the fun. This show was so good. I love this show so much. News Radio was hilarious. And here's one. This is out of print. You can't even get this anymore. The Norm Show with Norm Macdonald. These are definitely three of my all-time favorite sitcoms. Best Star Trek series for me is Voyager, Juan says, even though it's a tie between Next Generation and DS9. Wow, see, now Juan, for me, Voyager is my least favorite Star Trek series. Jim says Wonder Years wasn't a sitcom. Wonder Years was kind of a sitcom. Wonder Years was comedic. It was, I think that's what they call a quote-unquote dramedy. Joey says, have I seen Ghost Dad with Bill Cosby? I've seen parts of Ghost Dad. I've never seen the whole thing of Ghost Dad. Punk Nerd says, still waiting for my Warner Archive and movie Zing titles. By the way, we're coming to the end of the show, so it's last chance to hear Super Chat Hippo sing his song. You got 8 more minutes for Super Chat Hippo to sing to you. Jesse loves Married with Children. Trashboat says Sanford and Son. That All in the Family. Those are a classic. Jesse says Seinfeld's another favorite of mine. Seinfeld's great, but I do think Seinfeld's a bit overrated. People really are nuts for Seinfeld. Liza says WKRP and News Radio were so good. Yes, and you know what? I didn't even think about it. I grabbed both of them. They are two of my all-time favorite sitcoms. Both shows set in a radio station. I didn't even think of that when I grabbed them, but these are both radio shows. How about that? Lisa says WKRP is cool. 227 would be cool to see again. There's no place like home. With your family around you, you're never alone. Yep. I watched 227. Joey says, speaking of News Radio, did you see Kevin Hart on the Joe Rogan podcast? I did not. Brandon says there are a lot of Fox shows I would like to see get released, streaming or physical. NY Undercover, Boston Public, and Rock. Jim says Boy Meets World, Seinfeld, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and Married with Children are his favorites. Lisa says, I thought Dave Goelz said in Fraggle Rock on live stream that he couldn't bring the puppets home because of his dog or something, freaking out. Huh. He had Gonzo in his home on Prop Culture. Did you watch Prop Culture? He did have Gonzo in his home on Prop Culture. Noah says, I Love Lucy was airing a marathon when I was born. My favorite show of all time. Juan says, Alf was awesome. You know I love Alf. I got Alf sitting right there on the shelf. And then another one over there. I love Alf. Love Alf. Deadly Knot says, have I seen True Blood TV show? I watched True Blood every episode for about 4 seasons, and then I bailed. I liked it at first, but it really started to lose me. James says, I wish The Tick got completed on DVD, an animated show from the 90s. I love The Tick. Joey says, since you like like radio sitcoms so much, you should make a sitcom based on your time at a radio station where you played a lot of Crisco. Yep. That's a 1% joke. Jesse says, Joe, do you remember the 80s, The Hogan Family with Jason Bateman, also Empty Nest? I love The Hogan Family. In the heart of every family, there's a love that starts by... I don't remember all the words, but I watched The Hogan Family. I watched it before it was The Hogan Family, when it was Valerie. Mike says, do I own Project Alpha? I do. Noah says, favorite story from Muppet Classic Theater? Oh, obviously, it's got to be the Elves and the Shoemaker. I love the Elves and the Shoemaker. Lisa says, maybe Dave was just joking. Need to rewatch the stream. But, for Prop Culture, that was a one-time thing. So they could have, taken his dog for a long walk while they were filming it or something. Connor says, just about to ask if you would watch the Muppets episode of Prop Culture. Yes, I've watched several episodes of Prop Culture. I watched Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and Tron, and the Muppet Movie, and Mary Poppins. I'm going to watch them all. Trashboat says, are you a fan of Venture Brothers? I like Venture Brothers. I think it's pretty good. Jim Dugan says, the Full House theme song is so good to start off with. Puts it near the top. I hate the show, though. I hate the show Full House. I'm not a fan of that sitcom. Bohemian says, Boy Meets World, Girl Meets World, Big Bang Theory. I do not like the Big Bang Theory even a little. Mork and Mindy, Drake and Josh are my favorite sitcoms. Trashboat says, any sitcoms starring John P. Navin Jr. Well, John P. Navin Jr., was the very first patron on Cheers. In the pilot episode of Cheers, John P. Navin Jr. walks into the bar, says to Sam Malone, how about a beer, Chief? And Sam says, how about an ID, Chief? And John P. Navin pulls out a fake ID. And Sam asks him if he fought in Vietnam. And he says, yes. And he goes, what was it like? And John P. Navin says, gross. Yeah. So there you go. John P. Navin was on Cheers. But John P. Navin also starred on a sitcom called Jennifer Slept Here. It was about a ghost. He and his family moved into the house that belonged to a movie star. Ann Jillian was a movie star who died, but her ghost was still living in the house. And the only one who could see the ghost was John P. Navin Jr. Does anyone else remember Jennifer Slept Here? Did anyone else watch Jennifer Slept Here? I want to know. Am I the only one who watched it? Let me know if you watched Jennifer Slept Here. I want to hear this. And if any of you, because he lives somewhere in the Philadelphia area, if any of you know John P. Navin Jr., share this video with him. Share this video with John P. Navin Jr. Say, John P. Navin Jr., see this guy. He's a fan. He loved your movies. He wants to talk to you. He wants to have you on his podcast. Wants to have you on his YouTube channel. Let him know. If any of you know John P. Navin Jr., let him know. We want him right here. We'll be good to him. Treat him with respect. But I'd love that. Connor says, have I seen Robert Meyer Burnett's documentary on Tron? Yes. Yes, I have. It's great. It's great. Jim says, Joe was puzzled after reading that list. What list was I puzzled by? I'm not doubting you. I'm not sure which one we're talking about. Jim says, love Taxi. Taxi. What a great show. Greg says his favorite sitcoms are I Love Lucy, Three's Company, and Seinfeld. Good choices. Again, I think Seinfeld's a little overrated, but I'm in the minority on that. People love Seinfeld. Trashboat says, I love hearing you talk about John P. Navin Jr. I hope you get that interview one day. Dude, John P. Navin Jr. doesn't want any parts of this. I'm telling you, I've tried over the last 10 years. I've tried multiple times to reach out to John P. Navin Jr. Remember Craigslist? Remember when Craigslist was a thing? I took out like ads on Craigslist that said, does anybody know John P. Navin Jr.? And I got responses. I got people who told me I do know him. He's my cousin. He's a family member. People responded. But none of them ever put me in touch with him. I would say, well, tell him I want to have him on my podcast. Never. So I think John P. Navin Jr. probably knows who I am because I put the call out there for 10 years. I made it clear, I got a podcast. I want to have him on. I've reached people who are related to John P. Navin Jr. I'm sure some of them went back to him, said, hey, there's this guy who wants to have you on his podcast. He's probably watched these videos. He's probably listened to my podcast because people have told him this guy's looking for you. And he never, ever sends me an email or anything. So I think it's safe to say John P. Navin Jr. is not interested. And to be fair, he is a man who stopped acting in the early 90s. He has left the public spotlight behind. He hasn't done anything in the spotlight, in any kind of acting gig or anything since the early 90s. And I think he is done with being any kind of actor or quasi-celebrity. The celebrity might be strong words for John P. Navin Jr. because I don't know that many people remember him or know his name. So he's definitely, it's weirdos like me who remember John P. Navin Jr. and Trash Boat, apparently. Kyle's leaving. He says, good night, Joe. Good night, Kyle. And good luck with your graduation. Trash Boat says, Office and Parks and Rec for more contemporary. Parks and Rec would probably be my second favorite modern sitcom after Community. Lisa says, I'd like to see a reaction video if you ever get to meet John P. Navin Jr. I think it would be epic. Well, look, he lives somewhere in the Philly area. I don't know where. He's somewhere in the Philly area. So if I'm ever like walking down the street or something, if I'm ever in downtown Philly and I'm walking around and I run into John P. Navin Jr., I'll ask his permission first. But the phone, if he gives his permission, I'm sure the phone's going to come out and we're going to start recording because I got him. He was the bully on Silver Spoons who used to pick on Ricky, and they had to get Mr. T to be the bodyguard. All right, guys, it is past 10. I am going to wrap this up now because we have to go record the podcast now. It's now time to record the podcast. So these last seconds are your last chance to hear from Super Chat Hippo. Last seconds. We're wrapping it up now. Lisa says, oh, I already read that. I'm sorry. Greg says, do you have any of the mini consoles? I think Genesis is still $50 at GameStop. Ordered the Genesis when you posted the link the other day. So I got the Genesis coming. I got the Nintendo. I got the Super Nintendo. My Nintendo is modified with 90 games on it. The Super Nintendo, the Genesis. I got the PlayStation as well. PlayStation, I want to modify that. I want to put remember Broken Helix? Broken Helix was a game I loved. I want to put that on there, but I haven't yet. All right, guys. I got to meet Jacob. We got to record a podcast. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys stopping by each and every week. And until next week, keep wearing those pajamas. Oh, I almost forgot. I got to tell you, I got to plug this. I'm sorry. I got to plug this. I said it the last couple weeks, but if you are interested in seeing a video recording of the Mega Podtastic podcast. It comes out every Friday in podcast form, audio form only. You hear it, it's audio. But tonight, when we are done recording, when we are finished recording tonight's podcast, the video of us recording the podcast, you can actually see Jacob and I. It will be up tonight for Patreon members only. And this is something we're doing every week. Every week after we record, the video feed goes right up, as soon as we're done, right up to Patreon. Patreon members can watch the video days before the podcast comes out. Now, it's not polished. We didn't do all the editing and everything. Like last week, it was 4 videos. Because Skype kept dropping off and we had to keep starting the call again. So if you listen to the podcast, it was one whole podcast, one whole audio podcast. But there was actually 4 videos. And one of them, Christine was in the video. Christine came to do a segment with us. And that was first. Because Christine had to get to bed. So even though her segment was the last segment of the podcast, we actually recorded it first. So you can really, really see all the bells and whistles of how we put the podcast together on the video if you're interested. And it's for Patreon members. It'll be up tonight. And I gotta go. Keep wearing those pajamas.